Hello friends, welcome back to the Citizen Geek channel. I am your Citizen Geek, Maddie G, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you on a movie that I saw recently called The Walk. The Walk tells the true story of Philip Petit, a Frenchman who in the 1970s decided to walk between the twin towers of the World Trade Center on a tightrope wire. It's an interesting story, and in fact it was actually made into an Oscar-winning documentary back in 2008 called Man on Wire. The movie was directed by Robert Zemeckis, who has previously made films like Forrest Gump, the Back to the Future series, Castaway, The Polar Express, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. He's been around for a while. He's a legend. The movie stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Philip Petit. The movie doesn't really play like a traditional biopic. I kind of had to get used to the style of it. The movie is essentially told to us through the perspective of Philip Petit. A large chunk of the film is actually him addressing us as the audience, standing on the torch of a Statue of Liberty with the Twin Towers in the background, and we kind of see him telling us the story, narrating a lot of it, explaining what happened. Occasionally he'll cut in and mention something or make a point. It's a different kind of style of storytelling, and I kind of had to get used to it at first. At first it was kind of weird to me, and I didn't really know if I was going to appreciate it. But as the movie went on, I kind of got into it, and I actually kind of enjoyed it. So it's definitely different, but it's just kind of something that you're going to have to get used to. And it's pretty easy to get used to. It doesn't really take that long. This definitely feels like not so much the Hollywood version of a story, but definitely more of like the glossy, kind of sentimentalized version of the story. Normally, I wouldn't necessarily appreciate that, but because of the way the story is told and because of the way it's being told to us, it actually kind of works, and you kind of get used to it. And actually, when I got used to that, I actually started to really enjoy it and kind of like that style. It's not something that you see a lot, but it was an interesting way to tell the story, and ultimately, I think it worked really well. Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a really good job as Petit. I know some people might find his character a little strange or just really over the top, but if you've ever seen the real-life Philip Petit or heard him speak, that's basically who he is. So the way that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing that character is actually pretty close to home. That's really how Philip Petit is as a human being. The first parts of the film take place in France, and it's really just kind of about him figuring out who he is and what he wants to be in life and what his passions are. I really enjoyed that part of the film a lot. It reminded me of a lot of other French films, kind of like Amélie. It has a very kind of whimsical tone to it. The whole movie has a really whimsical tone. Later on, as he and his cohorts move to New York and start to plan this thing, because what they're doing is completely illegal. They're not allowed to do this. It starts to feel more like a classic, like 1970s, kind of like the whimsical version of a 1970s story. That part actually reminded me kind of a lot of Forrest Gump in terms of the overall tone of it and kind of the way things play. This movie is very much a romanticized telling of the story. And normally, I'm not really a fan of that when it comes to biopics, but because of the way that it's being told to us through Philip Petit, it actually works, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I think most people will too. When the movie finally gets to the big event, which is Philip Petit walking on the wire, because, spoiler alert, in real life, he really actually did do this. He really actually did walk across the Twin Towers on a tightrope wire. It's pretty amazing. I got to watch it on 3D IMAX, and it was pretty impressive. You really get a sense of just how unbelievably scared and excited and amazed that he must have felt doing this, and just everything that it took for him and his team to do this. It's a really incredible story. The movie doesn't whitewash everything. There are definitely times during the movie where you see the more obsessive side of Philip, and you definitely start to wonder what's really pushing him to do this, what's really feeding him to do it. Is this something self-destructive, and what is this ultimately going to end up doing to him? When it comes to talking about the Twin Towers, the movie does not delve into the events of September 11th. Robert Zemeckis is a smart enough filmmaker that he knows that he doesn't need to explicitly address the events of September 11th and what ultimately happened to the towers. We already know going in what's going to happen eventually, and this story's not really about that, but it's definitely there in the background. While the movie has a very upbeat and whimsical and fantastical tone, there's always this feeling of inevitability of what we know eventually happens to the World Trade Center towers, and that lends a real emotional undercurrent to the film. I won't spoil anything, but the very last shot of the movie come as close as any part to kind of referencing that, and it's done in a way that's very quietly moving. Ultimately, I would definitely recommend The Walk. I think most people are going to come out of it really enjoying it. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. It's a very uplifting story. That's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, for returning to the Citizen Geek channel. Please leave comments below letting me know what you thought about the video, if you liked it, if you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought about The Walk, if you've had a chance to see it yet. And if you've seen Man on Wire, the documentary that this is based on, please let me know what you thought about that as well. In the meantime, take care. Like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you again real soon.